So the question on everyone's mind is, what's up with visions? Popular belief used to be that they were gifts from the gods to acknowledge your strength of will, and that the archon of each element chooses each person to whom they grant that acknowledgement. There have always been problems with that, but we finally got face value confirmation from A.
It is not by my will that visions are granted or denied. The key is people's desire, and, well, there's another side to it too.
So I am here to present a wild alternative. Visions manifest when a person awakens the divinity within themselves. It's associated with moments of great will because it's when we're battered that we search inside ourselves for strength. And that's when we find our vision, which allows us to tap into the elemental energy that makes up the world. Yeah, I promise I didn't just pull this out of my cute tush, but you'll have to bear with me for a moment, because understanding something as fundamental as visions necessitates also uncovering the truth of this world that our entire journey is about. So let's talk about the world tree, Gnosticism, and why visions come from within. First up, an aspect of the Genshin universe that doesn't get enough attention, mainly because they've integrated it so smoothly that it's everywhere. And since it's always there, we don't see it. The world tree, Irminsul. Irminsul's root system permeates throughout the entire world, forming a topography of elemental energy that we know as ley lines. When we enter a domain, each tree that shakes out goodies for us is a branch. Doors of resurrection are tips of the roots, and it all comes together at the deepest, most hidden place in the earth. This is the source of the elements. Prayers tiaras say that in ancient times, the elemental flows were smooth and well-ordered. But these days we've got some scary stuff going on. Elemental mobs all originate from clogged ley lines, where they were mutated by overexposure to elemental energy. Eye of the Storm outright states that they're symbols of the world stricken by malaise, and Regisvines talk about their endless fury. We have ley line disorders in domains, and the ley lines we fight in the overworld are from elemental maladies. The ley lines are even responsible for teleportation, as long as you have some elemental resonance. But it's not just physical elements that flow in the world tree. It also holds the memories and wishes of all things. Wuwang Hill is a fascinating case study for memories in the ley lines, known for being haunted by spirits that draw travelers into dangerous areas. The explanation for the phenomenon is that unlike the fleeting and fickle human mind, the ever-flowing ley lines remember all. Surging elemental energy takes on spirit form to recreate all the dreams, both fair and foul, of Wuwang Hill's erstwhile residents. Much like a mother who once lost a child and now searches desperately through their irretrievable past for a way to bring everything back, the ley lines, albeit unconsciously, repeatedly recreate the past and those who inhabited it. The way each looked, the way each child cried, the way the elderly would sigh in their twilight years. Each moment of joy and each moment of sorrow, and like the hypnotic song of the great creatures of the deep sea, it unintentionally lures toward it any nostalgic soul who would dare trespass here. Here we see that the world tree takes the dreams of everyone who has lived and unconsciously recreates them as spirits. The energetic concentration at Wuwang Hill must be so high that ghosts reign, explaining the accompanying phenomenon of housing the border between life and death. When we see that the elements, wishes, and memories are all tied up in ley line energy, it's easy to make the logical leap that they're also all tied up in visions. Visions manifest in response to strong desire, your wishes and dreams. Losing your vision takes away the memories relating to the will that unlocked it, and lets you tap into the element that resonates with it. Even after death, your will lives on in your vision and can reawaken to see it brought to fruition.
There will always be those who dare to brave the lightning's glow.
This mixing of physical elements with the intangible meaning of memories and wishes harks back to the idea of a spirit of all things, because there's nothing truly inanimate in Genshin. Even rocks have memories. It's kind of strange to think about only because it comes so naturally to us. A nihilistic perspective would say that the elements and their reactions are merely an interplay of physical and chemical laws, but we don't deal in carbon and tungsten here. Instead, we use elements that have inherent emotional associations. Water is healing, adaptable, and pure. Fire is lively, passionate. Electricity is frenetic and wild, Geo is resolute and calm, and so on. The principles of the world tree build on this more spiritual outlook, where the energy upon which everything is based has a dual emotional and physical manifestation that feels intuitive to us. Tying visions into the world tree flips our common belief about visions on its head. We assumed that visions are granted by the archon of that element because it was implied. The Traveler's Vision story and Zhongli both say that if a person is found to have surpassing ambition even as their life reaches such a desperate turning point, then the gods would look upon them with favor. This favor is the vision, an external magical focus given to those who have been acknowledged by the gods which they can use to channel elemental power. That drove a lot of analysis into how each archon chooses their vision bearers, as though there's one theme, one emotion per element. But when we look at the inherent emotional associations of the elements, it makes more sense that the element you get is about your personality. When you earn a vision, no matter how that is, the element you get is based on which element your personality resonates with. Take hydro and what we associate with water. I am Mona, and I believe in truth. I don't muddy my words to suit people's expectations or desires. I see things as they are, and I say things as they are, and that resonates with the purity of hydro. So when my vision manifested, it was hydro. I'm Xingqiu, and I believe in being good and doing good, and that purity resonates with hydro. I'm Barbara, and I want to heal people, and since water is gentle and healing, I am hydro, and I am child, and I am versatile. I can play any role and shape any weapon. I am as adaptable as hydro. We could go on with the characters, demonstrating that each vision bearer has personality attributes and core beliefs that naturally suit their element. It feels like we have it backwards. Not that some power chooses people with a theme, but that characters have an elemental theme because they have personality characteristics we already associate with those elements. That's not to say that visions aren't gifts from the gods, because attributing visions to Irminsul ties them to the gods in the truest way possible. Ley lines are foundational to this world. I want to take it a step further and say that they are not merely the source of elemental energy, which just happens to also keep memories and wishes. The energy in the world tree is the source of everything. Sometimes it manifests in parts as a single element, but it fundamentally makes up everything that is. Intangible expressions like memories and wishes, ghosts, telekinesis, teleportation, adeptal realms, all magic comes down to the life force within the world tree. Why do I think that everything's connected to the world tree? You may have heard about the Gnostic parallels in Teyvat, where our world is partially inspired by a Gnostic system, if not an allegory for it. Gnosticism is a heretical belief system that says, Christianity, you believe in a loving God, but our world is cruel and absurd, and your God is angry and vengeful. Believing that the world is flawed because it had a flawed creator, Gnostics posit that there is a supreme being from which all things emanate, who is the true God. It does not necessarily have a will or particular care for humanity. It simply is, and all things that are come from it. The further away you get from the Supreme Being, the more material things become, because the allness separates into parts. We can imagine a spectrum of divinity, where the Supreme Being is the height of the spiritual world, and the tangible, material world is on the opposite side. In theology, hypostasis is one part of the Holy Trinity, an in-between state that is divine but also separate and distinct from the Godhead. Our hypostases are analogous to this, as the highest form of elemental structures. Their spiritual energy, elemental energy, manifested into physical form, an emanation far enough from the true God to be physical, but closer to it than lesser elemental and non-elemental beings. Gnosticism says that emanations can also be conscious. After all, the Supreme Being is the source of all things, including ideas, concepts, and emotions. One of these conscious emanations was the Creator. It made Earth and humans, and because it was foolish and blind, it thought that because it had created, it was the highest of all things. The flawed emanation asked, if there is any being greater than I, come forth, and nothing did, so it proclaimed itself the greatest power. Gnostics call this the demiurge, a flawed emanation who created a flawed world full of cruel absurdity. Of all the Gnostic influences, the strongest parallel to Teyvat is the 7+1 structure, where the demiurge rules the 8th sphere of heaven and has 7 archons below it to help it rule the world. In this model, Celestia, or at least Celestia as we know it today, is a false god, the demiurge who curses the land. But there's a problem here, because if archons are representatives of Celestia, the false god, then what is the true god? And how do we account for the gnoses, which are supposed to be internal magical foci that resonate directly with Celestia itself? In Gnosticism, gnosis is knowledge. The Supreme Being is the trueness from which all things emanate, and gnosis is the knowledge that connects you to the true God. It's said that when a human acquires gnosis, they will be freed from the cycle of reincarnation that shackles them to the material realm. This all rings some bells regarding what we've learned about reincarnation and a supposed false sky, but how does it all come together? I posit that the world tree is Teyvat's Supreme Being, the true God. After all, it's the source of elemental energy, of which all things are made. Since the gods themselves are conscious elemental beings, it feels natural that they would be analogous to Gnosticism's gods, conscious emanations from the Supreme Being. In that model, a gnosis, the heart of God, is a concentration of ley line energy, that which ties an archon to the true God, just as gnosis is the knowledge that frees you from the false sky by connecting you to true spirituality. The analogy works, but it also comes with implications. If Celestia is a false god and visions are tied to the world tree, how did we come to a world where archons have to follow Celestia's will? If visions come from the world tree's power and manifest according to the element that suits your personality, what exactly is an archon's role in any of it? A told us that their role is nothing. She gave Yai the Electro-Gnosis 500 years ago, and we've gotten Electrovision since then. She had no part in choosing who got visions, but they coincidentally stopped when the Vision Hunt decree went into effect? These answers lie before everything else. When did Gnosis become a thing that the gods care about?
I cannot say. It was signed before it all began.
Way back at the start of the Archon War, which we'll look at in the next part of the series, Life and Death of the God King. Gnosis, Celestia, and a contract before everything. Title subject to change. Thank you very much for watching, especially because this is a rather long one. I genuinely hope you enjoyed it. As always, I appreciate your support so much, and likes, subscribes, comments, sharing with your friends are really great for me, really just to motivate me, to keep me feeling good about all of this, and look forward to Life and Death of the God King. Bye-bye.